Linda Slaten, a 31-year-old woman from Lakeland, Florida, was found dead in her home on September 4, 1981. Her sister, Judy Butler, discovered her body with a wire hanger wrapped around her neck and immediately called 911. Linda had been assaulted and strangled. Investigators broke the news to Linda's two sons, Jeff, 15 years old, and Tim, 12 years old. Jeff, who was sleeping in the living room, was instructed to get dressed and go outside, where he saw a large police presence, news crews, and his crying Aunt Judy. Judy explained what had happened to Linda. In the second bedroom, Tim, still in his pajamas, was awakened by an officer. As he walked past his mother's closed bedroom door, it swung open, revealing the crime scene. Investigators determined that the perpetrator entered through Linda's bedroom window, which had its screen removed. They also discovered a palm print on the windowsill and unidentified male DNA on Linda's body. To identify a potential suspect, investigators looked into Linda's ex-husband, Frank Slaten, who was known for his violent alcoholism. However, they couldn't establish a connection to the crime. Jeff Slaten, Linda's older son, was also interviewed but couldn't be implicated. Joe Mills, Tim's football coach and driver, was another person of interest, but no evidence linked him to the scene. Sergeant Edgar Pickett, a fingerprint expert from the Lakeland Police Department, thoroughly examined the crime scene and discovered the palm print on the windowsill. Both the palm print and the DNA found on Linda's body were preserved for future analysis. Jeff and Tim moved in with their grandparents, Clarence and Margaret Harris, after their mother's death. They rarely left the house and slept in the same room, with Grandpa Harris standing guard at night. The boys eventually returned to school and focused on football. Tim hung a photo of his football team in his bedroom as a reminder of his mom's advice to keep moving forward. Years later, Jeff and Tim still carried guilt for not being able to help their mom. In 1999, investigators obtained a DNA profile of the person responsible for Linda's death, but lacked a match. Detective Brad Grice took over the case in 2001 and collected DNA samples from potential suspects, including Jeff and Tim. Despite their cooperation, no match was found. Then, in September 2001, a tip led Detective Grice to Jimmy Ulmer, who had assaulted a young girl in a similar manner and was sentenced to 80 years in prison. It was discovered that Ulmer had been staying in the same apartment complex as Linda during the time of her death. Detective Grice, Jeff, and Tim were confident they had their man, Ulmer, who passed away in prison in 1996. However, when Ulmer's DNA did not match the crime scene DNA, it was a massive disappointment, and they felt like they were back to square one. In 2005, Detective Grice joined a new cold case unit and had the FBI continuously run the DNA profile through federal databanks. But years passed without a match. In 2015, Grice retired due to medical problems, unable to fulfill his promise. However, in 2018, a groundbreaking DNA technology emerged. Genetic genealogist C.C. Moore took on Linda's case. Using the public genealogy website GEDmatch, Moore meticulously constructed the culprit's family tree by examining birth certificates, marriage licenses, obituaries, and social media. Moore discovered 3 branches of the perpetrator's family tree that ultimately led to one likely person. These genetic networks converged into one family tree, pointing to an immediate family with a single son. Thus, the man from that family was identified as the DNA contributor. C.C. Moore, after extensive investigation, identified Joseph Clinton Mills as the man responsible for the crime. Mills, known as Coach Joe, used to drive Tim to practice. Authorities confirmed Mills' location before notifying the brothers. A report from 2019 confirmed Mills' presence near the crime scene. Detectives Hathcock and Hurley discovered Mills' previous conviction and matched his palm print to the one found at the scene. Genetic genealogy and a palm print confirmed Mills as the likely culprit. The detectives obtained a fresh DNA sample from Mills by collecting his trash, which matched the DNA from the crime scene. After 11 days, the confirmation came, and Mills was identified as Linda Slaten's killer. Tim, who once admired Coach Joe, was devastated by the revelation and disgusted that Mills continued driving him despite taking Linda's life. In December 2019, detectives arrested Joseph Mills. Detective Tammy Hathcock read him his rights, but he showed no emotion and didn't question the arrest. Tim and Jeff later thanked Sergeant Edgar Pickett for collecting a palm print years ago. In 2022, Mills pleaded guilty to all charges. Jeff shouted at him in court, demanding to know why he took their mother. Mills claimed to be a good person, denying the accusations against him. In February 2022, Mills received a life sentence without parole. C.C. Moore praised the original crime scene investigators for preserving DNA evidence, which proved crucial in solving the case. Jeff and Tim are determined to move forward, honoring their mother's memory. They rely on each other for support, living close by and sharing hobbies. They frequently visit their mother's grave, commemorating her with a candle and a portrait on anniversaries.